If you aren't telling stories, you are boring. Hi, I'm Jamie Gorman, the host of Be Better at Business TV. And I'm here this morning with Sally Strackbein, and she is the CSF, that's the Chief Story Facilitator for Defining Story. Good morning, Sally.
Good morning, Jamie.
And this morning we're going to discuss how you can tell the story of your business. Okay, so as part of when I knew that Sally was coming on the show, I kind of stepped out there and I took some time and I wrote the Sigma Business Management story. And so I sent that over to Sally. It's up on my blog, so you can kind of go read. It was posted, I think, on Tuesday, the 5th of February. And you can go back and read that. And she's going to give me some help on that, right? So this is what you do. You go through and you help people. You kind of take what they have and start crafting that, helping them craft that into a presentation, into a story that they can use to help market their business. So you've taken a look at my story. What'd you think? Don't make me cry now.
Can I have permission to smack you around
Absolutely.
a little
Well,
bit?
not physically, but verbally. We'll do that.
Okay.
We won't make this an MMA
I
show.
read your story, and it had 7 paragraphs in it.
Okay.
And the first paragraph has great promise.
Okay.
I really see some glimmers of something really good in the first paragraph.
Okay.
The other 6, into the recycle bin.
Oh, my. Okay. So just for those who haven't read it, I started out, I told us, are you going to?
No, you go ahead.
Okay.
Just give me the first paragraph.
Yeah, so the first paragraph goes back to when I was at the Naval Academy, and at the Naval Academy, everyone, to graduate, you have to jump off a 10-meter tower. It simulates being an aircraft carrier and having to, kind of jump ship. And so it's easy, you kind of see people doing that, and so you know that it can be done safely. And as you're crawling up the ladder, that's kind of easy, and you walk out to the end of the platform, and you start to get a little bit anxious in your stomach, and then you're kind of standing there, thinking, okay, do I take this step or not? And that's kind of a very difficult part. That's the decision, is once you take a step, and I start talking about how that's like starting your own business. Was I close?
It's a good start. However, you were kind of narrating instead of taking us with you on that platform.
Okay.
May I show you how I would change that?
Yeah.
If you were standing on, now there are 2 versions of this, standing on the stage and presenting it as a presentation or written. So right now I want to do the piece where you would actually be standing on a stage.
Okay.
I would actually go up to the edge of the stage. I would.
Right.
They want me to jump off the Empire State Building? I don't want to die.
Okay.
And then you pause and get that feeling. Then you might go into a little bit of narration and say, to graduate from the Naval Academy, I have to take a jump off of a 10-meter tall platform.
And I could probably even talk about how, because people may not know the metric system, so talk about how.
It's my turn.
All right.
Then you might say, a 10-meter platform, that's like jumping off of a 3-story building,
Okay.
the roof,
Okay.
into a little pool.
Okay.
And you want them to get that feeling of terror.
Right. Right.
And then you stand at the edge. Now, what did he tell me to do? Am I supposed to step off or jump off? He said, jump. He said, cross my arms.
Right.
And you're having this dialogue in your own head, because the key piece to storytelling is dialogue.
Okay.
And when it's just you, you've got to have this dialogue with yourself.
Right.
Okay, and then you can say, I did it, and it wasn't that bad.
All right.
And then you can go into making your points and say, starting my own business was almost as scary as jumping off that platform.
It's probably scarier. But
Then the rest of the piece. See, the first one is I understand your pain.
Right.
In other words, you understand what it feels like to be afraid. And so you're telling that. Then you want to go into the credibility piece.
Okay.
And where you missed the mark on that was I didn't get any feel for Jamie. I know that Jamie started his own business one day, but I don't know whether he went from making lattes at a coffee shop into telling people how to build their business.
Okay.
I want to know a little bit about what you did before. What qualifies you to help people?
Right. Well, what qualifies me to help people is I came out of telecommunications sales.
Aha.
So I have kind of that sales, marketing, relationship building part of sales. Before that, I was in a couple different companies, but where I really started enjoying working with businesses and understanding businesses as I got my MBA.
Okay.
And I was in business at the time, doing some consulting then. Got my MBA, worked for a couple different companies. So I had a broad knowledge, but centered on that business administration degree.
Okay, great. I think I would throw in the part about the MBA, but we all know people with MBAs who don't know don't know a whole lot except their book learning.
What might be more interesting with that is that my background is in engineering, and so I always looked at marketing as kind of creative, not really my thing.
Airy-fairy.
Yeah, but when I really started taking some marketing classes, I found out, hey, this is really
There's
an
a
engineering
science
problem,
to it,
right?
yeah.
I mean, you have something you're trying to accomplish. Here's the tools you have. You got to put them together
Listen
in the right
to
way.
yourself. You just turned on when you said that.
There we go.
Your whole face changed. And that's perfect because you're engineering. You see the whole thing as an engineering problem for you to solve.
Okay.
That's perfect. That would go in the story.
Right.
And that way you were able to go forth and help people engineer their marketing.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that would be better than the way I approached it.
So you want to position yourself as somebody who knows what they need to know.
Okay.
And has helped people. You can even throw in some strategic bragging there, but that actually comes in a different piece.
Okay.
But the part about how you got started, the fact that you worked in sales is hard.
Right.
And especially with your target market of small businesses that really have got a great product or service, and yet they need to sell it. And if you've been successful in sales, and you can help other people be successful, because there's no business without selling.
Right, absolutely.
And if you show that you've actually qualified, you've actually done that, and you can help them do it too. That's the credibility piece that goes along with the I care piece.
Okay.
And you put those together and you're golden.
Okay, great. That's, well, I guess I have some work to do, right? But that's good. Any other, as you went through the rest of the story, what about the closing? I guess the middle wasn't that great. What I tried to do is I tried to bring it back a little bit into that initial story. I tried to bring it back throughout. Is that something, or how do you close this?
You can actually bring that story back, because you can talk about the fear and how you help people get over the fear and move on to the success.
Okay.
And just as you were successful in jumping off that platform, you help other people succeed in their businesses.
Okay. All right, great. Well, once again, Be Better Business TV is a live program, so if you have questions, you can chat those in. And Alyssa, do we have anything now from the audience?
How long should my story be?
All right, so you start off my story was 7 paragraphs. I'm not sure what that equates to at the time, but I was doing it.
It equated to about 6 minutes if you were to say it aloud.
All right. And so how long should a story be?
As long as it needs to be.
All right. So people get up and start. I usually go until people get up and leave the room. But
Well, what I like to do with people is I like to help them with the 2 or 3 sentence version, the 2-minute version, the 5-minute version, depending on where it's going to go.
Okay.
If you're telling the story in a networking situation where you say, "Hi, I'm Sally," and you ask me what I do, I might tell you the 2 or 3 sentence version of the story. If I'm in front of a group and I know I've got 10 minutes, I might make it a 2-minute story.
Right.
If I've got 45 minutes, I might make it a 5-minute story.
okay, so it certainly depends on. And I talk to people about speaking, and also mainly about networking, right? And you get into some of the network situations where you have a 10-minute where you talk about your business. And so, or you might have, like you said, 30 seconds or a minute. Now, can you roll it in? And it may be effective with it in that kind of time. So it sounds like you kind of have the story, and then as you work on it, you come up with different versions and pick the priorities based on how much time and what you need to get into, and probably a little bit of your audience.
Yes, of course, because depending on the audience, you might highlight different aspects of the story and bring in different components of it.
Okay. Yeah, so kind of knowing who you're presenting to, And sometimes I tell people when they're networking, that's why it's important to kind of ask the other person about themselves first, so you know
Yes,
how to
exactly.
design that story to
Exactly.
kind of have the most effect.
Well, the other thing is you should have a pocket full of stories. You should have several different stories that you can tell depending on who the person is
Right.
that you're talking to.
Right. And what do you think about, especially probably with writing, but more with speaking, like in the 10-minute, about kind of rolling different stories into one bigger story? Is that something that you...
You can do that.
Okay.
If you're doing are you talking about the 10-minute promotional speech or the 10-minute
Yeah, so you do like the weekly
informational?
networking things, and every
Right,
few
okay.
months you get a chance to get up and talk about your business or tell your story.
Yeah, well, the story, the kind of story I would use in that is what I call strategic bragging.
Okay.
That's where you tell a very short story about a company that you've helped. You know,
Right.
what was their challenge? What was the solution that you brought? And what was the result to them? Most people fall down on the result to them because they step on their result. You help them double their sales,
Okay.
and they brought me back in another time.
Okay.
You leave out they brought me back another time. It's you help them double their sales.
Right.
Stop.
Okay.
Pause.
So knowing when to stop might be a good tip.
That's a huge piece of storytelling.
Okay. Great.
It's
And
knowing when to
kind of
stop.
like the punchline, right? You don't have to go through and explain it then.
Right, and you don't want to step on your punchline.
Okay. So an example of that might be if I do plumbing and I do heating and cooling in my 10 minutes, I might want to concentrate on those two different things. I may have a plumbing testimonial type of a story, and then I might have a heating cooling testimonial story
Correct.
that might be rolled into a bigger,
Yes.
kind of a bigger
Yes.
status there.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that's some good tips. I know I'll be able to take those back, and I'll make some changes, and we'll kind of work on that.
Okay.
And I'll kind of keep it up to date on that post, and we'll kind of keep it going until we work that out. All right, make it better,
Sounds
worth
good.
reading. So Sally does this for a living. She's a consultant that helps people with their presentation skills, with their storytelling, and you can find her at definingstory.com. And we've talked a lot about storytelling. But is there anything you want to share about defining story, and maybe tell a little bit of that story? I'm putting you on.
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot. Okay. Well, I always loved stories. I always read books and watched movies, and I always knew it was important, but I didn't know why until I had a neuroscientist in one of my storytelling workshops.
Okay.
And after the workshop, he really liked it, and I knew he knew a lot about the brain, and I asked him to do a research paper for me on storytelling in the brain. And what came out of that is, I alluded to it a little earlier, is that when you tell somebody stories, it really is stored differently in the brain.
Right.
And so my goal is to help people go out in the world and be authentic, help them be understood, and help them attract what's right for them. And to do that, you have to be memorable.
Okay.
So the stories help people be memorable. They help people make the emotional connection. And so I help people do that. I help people go out and just be themselves and get the business that they want.
But kind of thinking through that aspect of, if you kind of have that in the back of your mind when those situations come up, you have those prepared, and you've been able to do that.
Yes, they really need to be prepared because most people can't just off the top of their head tell a well-formed story.
Right, right.
I know I can't. I need
Yeah,
to
it's
work on
tough.
them a bit.
That's great. I actually heard one yesterday. I was at a networking group, and the lady got up and she said, I was at a holiday party. I think it was a Super Bowl party, and she was talking to somebody, and they were talking about some tax thing, and she kind of said, no, you're doing it wrong. You need to do such and such.
Oh.
So she got that person as a lead, and then somebody
Wow.
else came up to her, and she said, okay, well, what's your tax problem? She said, my problem is that I'm using that other lady for advice.
Oh, no!
And she ended up by saying that, so she got 2 leads over the 7-layer dip,
Whoa.
which was a pretty good story and very memorable.
I guess.
Right?
Wow.
So, great. Well, thank you very much for being on Be Better
You're
Business TV.
welcome.
I'm glad that you came, and I think we can all benefit from improving our stories a little bit. And if we need help, we can certainly contact Sally. Go to definingstory.com. Read her blog. Very good. Once again, I'm Jamie Gorman, the host of Be Better at Business TV. I'm also the CEO of Sigma Business Management, and we help with business planning, marketing planning, really anything that you need to be better at business. Hope that you can use this show to help yourself be better at business today.